So in this segment, we're going to be discussing Robert Jenrick does not understand the Good Friday Agreement.
Now, one of your central promises in your campaign is to take the country out of the European Convention on Human Rights, which is a big legal framework. The UK has been part of it for decades. And it's important because when it comes to Northern Ireland and the Good Friday Belfast Agreement, it's in that text as being something that is absolutely vital. Ian Cork wants to know, can you explain what leaving the ECHR would do in terms of the...
I'll tell you what, Laura Kuhnsberg should just do viewers' questions, because the viewers are absolutely cooking, asking them really good questions, you know, much better than she normally does.
Direct impact on the Good Friday Agreement. So how would you do that?
The Good Friday Agreement is not reliant upon the ECHR.
It's a fundamental part.
So let's scroll down and have a look at what someone's posted. The European Convention on Human Rights, ECHR, and any Bill of Rights for Northern Ireland supplementing it, which neither the Assembly nor bodies can infringe, together with the Human Rights Commission. So essentially, it is built into the Good Friday Agreement that, you know, that they can't infringe on the rights within the ECHR. So again, it's just baffling to me.
It envisages a Northern Irish Bill of Rights, which would protect the citizens of Northern Ireland domestically,
and that one that cannot infringe on the Good Friday Agreement
according to the ECHR. And that's what I propose. I propose that we have a British Bill of Rights, or indeed a Northern Irish Bill of Rights, which does what the spirit of the Good Friday Agreement suggested and protects the rights of those citizens. I don't think it's impossible for the country of Magna Carta and habeas corpus to find a way to ensure that the rights and liberties of our own citizens, whether in Northern Ireland or anywhere else across our country, are properly protected and respected, as they were prior to us joining the ECHR.
Do you think that the nationalist community and Sinn Féin would sit down and think, OK, they're going to accept a British Bill of Rights? I mean, you can say, oh, you just do another piece of legislation. But the Good Friday Agreement...
Which is true. They can get rid of any piece of legislation, really. So if they leave the ECHR and they put these protections into law, they can change it at any point. They've done it already with stuff. You know, if you look at the anti-protest laws we have.
Explicitly says that the ECHR is part of the legal framework there.
Well, all enduring agreements require a degree of pragmatism, and you see that with the Good Friday Agreement in many different respects. I mean, for example, it speaks of a Northern Irish Bill of Rights, which in fact Tony Blair as Prime Minister...
Yeah, it does, but, you know, it says, like, any Bill of Rights for Northern Ireland, it's meant to supplement the ECHR. It's not meant to infringe on things like that. Like, well, you know, again, what is he talking about? You know, like it says here, arrangements to provide the key decisions and legislation are approved to ensure they do not infringe the ECHR and any Bill of Rights for Northern Ireland. Moblood's waffling, fam. He don't know what he's talking about.
Chose not to proceed.
But as things stand, there's no way for the UK to come out and Good Friday still to work.
There are different ways of resolving this issue. What I want to do is ensure the rights of Northern Irish citizens are protected domestically, rather than reliant upon a foreign court in Strasbourg. And as but
again, you know, the decisions, like, it's British judges making these decisions as well. Like the court, I think, that stopped the Rwanda scheme, you know, stopped the plane taking off. I think that was a British court that made that decision.
I wouldn't do this lightly. I'm doing this because I don't want to have criminals on our streets who we need to get out. I don't want.
I mean, you managed to deport Abu Qatada, you know, under the ECHR rules. I think it's just to make sure, like, a person won't be subject to torture if they're deported from this country to face punishment in another country.
Terror suspects on our streets or in our prisons, and those are things that matter to people of all parts of the community.
So he doesn't get it, and you can see here the ECHR is mentioned 7 times within the Good Friday Agreement. This guy is a complete numpty, honestly.
In many different respects, to us joining the ECHR.
Do you think that the national...
So there's something we already covered, and he's so bad. He's so bad that even David Davies is like, nah, blood, I'd rather back Kemi Badenoch over you, the bigger clown.
Highlighted in what you've been talking to John Hayes about. You know, he's talking about pulling out the ECHR. I've probably dealt with the ECHR more than anybody in Parliament in the last 30-odd years. I've actually defeated them over prisoner votes. And I'm very familiar with how we deal with it, how we derogate from parts of it, how we exempt ourselves. Those things can be done. What Robert's proposing is simply not viable unless you're going to give up the Northern Ireland Agreement. And, you know, the Irish government are not going to back down on this. The European Union are not going to back down on this. They're guarantors to this, and we are committed.
Do you think,
Jenrick, let me just finish the sentence. As for Bill of Rights, I mean, I was the Shadow Home Secretary who came up with that as an idea in 2007-8, I think. And we have failed ever since as a party to be able to draft one which will work. That's over 16 years, is it? And it just, we haven't got one that will work. Now, unless we come up with something a little more clear cut than that, that's not going to work.
So, even what's his name? David Davies is calling him out on this. I think there was a clip here that's worth mentioning.
How would you describe it?
Incredulity. They're incredulous. They are ridiculous. That was ridiculous. Completely ridiculous. I thought, I couldn't understand. I thought, what is this man doing? Who is he? We have an expression in Scotland, which is, his head is full of mince. Do you know what that means?
I know what that means, but explain it to our viewers, because they don't all have the same Scottish lexicon as you and me.
Well, it means that he just doesn't know. I mean, the whole thing about Northern
Sounds like a polite way of saying it.
Ireland is just ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous.
Well,
when you think of the Good Friday Agreement and the care and what went into that.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons why they enshrined the ECHR into the Good Friday Agreement is because they know the British government plays games. They know the British government, tries to push the line way too much. Should I say the Westminster government? They know that for sure. And there's more here from Lewis Goodall.
Getting around the fact, let's imagine, which I think is very likely, that the Irish government says that they are not willing, of course they are also a guarantor, co-guarantor of the Good Friday Agreement, they say that they are not willing to see any amendments to it, or they are not willing to change the agreement without the ECHR being a cornerstone of it. How do we get around that? How would a Robert Jenrick government get around that?
As I said, it will be about looking at how we can enshrine in our law, in agreement, through treaty, and so on and so forth with the Irish, how we can enshrine our law.
What if the Irish say no?
Well, we can't anticipate that discussion. This is the beginning of a process, as I said.
Think we could be fairly. I think we could probably both agree, couldn't we, Sir John, that they would be pretty sceptical about the idea.
Yeah, I imagine they'd say that's a negative from me, Chief.
Yeah, but neither you, Lewis, in all your wisdom, nor me in my less wisdom, because who's got more wisdom than you, but neither of us could anticipate exactly what position the Irish would take, and there would need to be a negotiated settlement, which I think we could achieve. Robert said that out. I mean, look, we either leave this ECHR and free ourselves from the interference of those foreign judges who are stopping us doing what the British people want, which is to deport those people who come to this country, commit crime.
I mean, we can already do that, though. We're literally deporting people back to certain countries in which they're not even really from. Like, they grew up in Britain. Like, some of these people are like, they'll move here when they're young, and we'll deport them back to those countries, even though they have no real roots with those countries beyond parental heritage. Like, this argument here doesn't wash. It's meant to protect people against things like torture. So you'd have to prove, like, if they're deported to Qatar or wherever, they won't be tortured over there. That's the point of it. Like, it's just complete. I'm just befuddled by these people, I guess. I don't know if that's the correct word for it. Or should I say, bro is flabbergasted by some of the statements here. But, Robert Jenrick, just a complete nutcase. But anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Support the channel on Patreon if you can. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one.